Awesome. Welcome back.
Thanks.
I'm here with Dr. Tim Erwin. We are diving back into energy system development specifically for BJJ, but I think if you look at it, you can kind of just pull what you need from a lot of what you're talking about for every day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's applicable to really any physical endeavor you're going to do, right? Like any type of working out you're going to do, any type of activity you're going to do.
Yeah.
This applies because it's how our body works.
Exactly. And so at the end of the last time we met, you were saying what it is you do at Virtuous Health Solutions and like who you're working with. So like you're not just working with elite top tier athletes, you're working with everyday
everyday people. I mean, that's the majority, right?
Yeah.
It's people who want to feel better, or they have a goal, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's to lose some weight. Maybe it's to do a 40-mile bike ride. Maybe it's to run a little faster. So what I do here is help see where they are using objective measurements, resting metabolic tests, VO2 max test, DEXA for body composition. And then we put together a plan and we have them do it. And then after a certain period of time, they come back and we reassess to see how the needle has moved, if they've improved. And if they have, then we continue down that path. If they haven't, then, we'll tweak the plan. But yeah, it's not just athletes. It's really your, 40-year-old guy who wants to, or even 50-year-old guy who wants to do the day of the tread bike ride. Or your 40-year-old lady who wants to change her body composition. So no, definitely not an elite only type practice.
Right. But you're also, when you are working with those elite level athletes, there's some more fine tuning and things that do you dive in deeper with those type of people, or is it just the same stuff? You're doing all the same stuff.
I mean, it's really the same stuff. They have more interest in the real nitty gritty, right? Like the training zones.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So for someone who says, "Hey, I've been trying to work out. I'm not losing the weight. Can you help me? What am I doing wrong?" They're really just going to be focused on that zone where they're going to maximize their fat utilization. Mm-hmm. Whereas an athlete is going to be they're going to be interested in that because there's a lot of, really the bulk of their time is going to be spent there. Mm-hmm. But they're really going to also be interested in the higher zones so that they can dial in their training for their, turbo system. Gotcha. So the zone 4, the zone 5, and then seeing how that changes over time. And then one of the services that's probably more for the athlete is the lactate testing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So where we're really dialing in their in the case of a cyclist, their functional threshold power. Mm-hmm. So the theoretical power that they can maintain for 60 minutes, the maximal power they can maintain for 60 minutes. There are tests that you can do that are a little less scientific, where you go out and you ride 20 minutes as hard as you can, and then you take 90% of that. But even that can overestimate it, because psychologically we know, okay, this only lasts 20 minutes. So the last 5 minutes I can really, really dig in and sort of falsely elevate that number.
Gotcha.
And so you're taking 90% of a sort of falsely elevated number, right?
Gotcha.
But when you come in and we're checking your lactate throughout the stages and checking to see how much it increases, and really looking for that deflection point where the slope of the line starts to go vertical, we know that's an unsustainable effort. Mm-hmm. So we can really dial it in. So that's just an example of sort of the level of nuance that I'll get into with someone who is maybe looking to lose weight or just improve their overall fitness, versus someone who is really looking to improve their overall performance.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. And are you doing nutrition here as well, or?
So I can do based on, so if a person comes in and they get their resting metabolic test done, so that's going to tell us, how many calories they burn if they were to just sit in bed all day and not do anything. Is what their body needs to exist for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And then based on that, we'll know, okay, you need X number of grams of carbohydrates, X number of grams of protein, X number of grams of fat on days that you work out versus days that you don't. And then the platform, or the dietitian that works with the platform, can take all that and then create a 3-month meal plan down to the day, with recipes, substitutions, recommendations based on your goals and your caloric needs.
Awesome.
So if you're trying to lose weight, and we know that between your activity and your basal metabolic rate, your requirement for a day is, let's say, 2,500 calories.
Mm-hmm.
To safely lose weight, you want to have about a 300 to 500 calorie deficit every day. So what they'll do is they'll go in, because you fill out a questionnaire and you say, these are my goals. And so they have that information before they design the plan. They'll go in and they will make a plan for you to hit those goals for weight loss. So each meal, at the end of the day, when you add up all of the calories, it will be that 300 to 500 calorie deficit.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's like, it's obvious that we need to know those numbers, but I think so many people, and at least my clients, they're like, well, I'm following this diet that I found online and I'm cutting out calories. I'm like, well, how many calories are you cutting out? Like, specifically for you, it doesn't make sense that you're cutting out the same calories this person is following. And I see it a lot. I mean, because there's so much information out there. Yeah. And I think it's at some point we're just kind of, you're just kind of cherry picking. Yeah, exactly. That looks good. Okay. What day is it? Thursday? Okay. This one looks good. What day is it? Friday? Oh, well, that one looks a little better today. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because it's such an individual thing, right? I mean, we're all individuals by definition. And so we all have our own specific requirements and situation. And so it's hard to kind of put that sort of broad template on the individual. I mean, there are certain just tenets that you adhere to when it comes to, safely losing weight, but it's always better, I think, to know exactly how your body performs and what your body needs. Right. I think when I did the testing with you and we found out, I don't even know how to say this properly, but I found out I don't burn fat very well. I don't tap into those stores very well. And I really would go by just like how I'm feeling. You know what I mean? I'd be like, well, I would always say with fasting, for instance, I'm like, wow, like my body feels really good, but my head's a mess. You know? Like, and then I'm like, I'm eating a lot. I'm like, man, my head feels sharp, but you feel, wow. Yeah, exactly. So it was nice to come in and get the testing and to understand and to see and actually to see it in front of me. Like, this is how your body specifically needs to, exercise, or how your body, what you need to do. I know we didn't do like the diet plan, but it was really helpful to know, like, oh wow, like it was like, I remember seeing it was like green, red. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Your mitochondrial efficiency. Like, okay. Yeah. You need to work. You need to work on this. Yeah. And they're like, so yeah, that was important. And I think that like what you're doing, because I wanted to touch on that first, because what you're doing for people. I know I'm sending you people because the thing that the light bulb for me is when they're like, just tell me all this random stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. We need to start throwing stuff at the walls, man. You know what I mean? See what sticks. Yeah. So I think that's really important that people know that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I think it's the analogy I use is if you're trying to go somewhere, you got to have a map and you got to know where you're starting. To get where you want to go, you got to know where you're starting. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just kind of driving around hoping you hit the right spot. Right. And I think that can apply to, people's weight loss journeys, or, physical fitness journey or whatever. You can just kind of do all this stuff and it's trial and error, and maybe eventually you get there, but it's probably, maybe it's taken you longer than it had to. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good kind of like segue into this, and I didn't tell you this before, but I was telling I showed one of my clients. He's I would say he's a high level amateur cyclist, and you may have met him before, but he always would go hard on his bike, like he would go really, really hard because he's one of the hardest workers I know. I mean, I heard someone say like, this guy's the hardest worker, that guy's the hardest worker, and I'm like, yeah, those are the guys. They work hard and they are online. This guy works hard and he just works hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. He goes and works construction. Yeah. And then like all day, but he already rode like 70 miles on his bike, right? Like he goes hard. Oh God. So, but he finally understood within this I think he did this giant race in California. I forget what it was called. I wish I remember off the top of my head, but it was this crazy racing. He did it the year before and they finished, but he said he was just like done. And his coach finally got him into zone 2 training. Okay. And he was like, okay. And when I showed him the clip of our conversation last time, he was like, whoa, he's like, that's all I did before this last race. And I think they improved by 50 minutes. Wow. 50 minutes. They improved. And I know in his head, he was thinking, this is not going to work. Like I'm going like when he was doing the training. I'm going too slow. I'm going too slow. No way this is working. This is not going to work. And then he like called me like 50-minute improvement. And I want to send you the exact like numbers, but I think that was his highlight moment, his aha moment. And I showed him the clip And I talked to him about it, how important it is. And he's like, whoa, he's like, that's all we did. That's all we trained. And it was like finally just understanding when when you know where to start. And that coach finally got him to understand when that base, where he was at. And he's such a great athlete, winning all these races, always on the podium. Yeah. And then to be like, I'm going to take you away from that kind of training and you're going to do this. He really just was blown away. And then when I was able to show him again, like, look, there's some science behind this. This is also some science behind this. And this just further shows you that you're doing the right thing with it. So I feel like sometimes we don't have to just beat ourselves up like that.
No, we don't. I mean, that's the thing. I think we just have this, I think it's part of our nature to feel, and you could say, maybe it's part of our culture because, it's just part of our culture is to, work hard and just go. Mm-hmm. And so when you're not doing that, you wonder, what, am I wasting my time? Mm-hmm. I'm just going too slow. There's just no way that this is helping. Yep. But then you have someone like your client who actually does it, they trust the plan and then they see the benefit. And then, it can be life-changing because the reality is, when you go out and you do your zone 2 work, I mean, it's pleasant. It doesn't, it's not the whole no pain, no gain attitude. Now there's a time and place for the pain, but when you're out there and you're building that base, you don't need to do that. In fact, as we talked about, it can be detrimental, right, to getting the most benefit out of that workout if you start going into that higher zone. Yep.
And so I was actually talking to Ben before this, and I was telling him, I was like, because I'm training a few now, I think like 4 or 5 BJJ athletes, getting them ready for just out of pain. Then some of them are going to Worlds.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Masters Worlds.
Yeah. There's three of the BJJ athletes I'm working with are going to go this weekend. Oh, cool. Which is awesome. 2 from our gym and then 1 from another gym. Okay. And so I was telling him that like I came up with their plan and then I sent it to you to just kind of make sure, like, is this, because I've programmed for MMA guys, but BJJ it's a different beast. So, and we made some tweaks based off what you said. I'm starting to think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm starting to think that just the zone 2 is just the place to be for BJJ athletes. Like if we're just saying we need to train and I don't know what to do, go zone 2. If they have no time, would that be accurate to say, like, just do that? If you have no time to do anything else, do that.
Yeah, I think it's going to contribute to that base from which everything else is going to build. And so, and this is kind of a good segue into talking a little bit about the systems because, BJJ, we mentioned it, I think on our last kind of talk, is that it's really an intermittent sport. So it's, it's super hard and it's like super not. And it's super hard and then you get these little bits of respite. But when it's super hard, you're accumulating all these byproducts from that metabolism, the processes of generating the energy to fuel that super hard interval. And so, or effort. And so what do I mean by that? So we can look at the different systems and we talked about the last time, the creatine phosphate system, right? So that's going to fuel your efforts up to about 10 seconds. And that's, shooting in on someone or getting a hold of them and throwing them. And then you have what's called the glycolytic system. So that's where we're burning glucose, which is a carbohydrate. Whatever you take in, whatever carbs you take in, ultimately your body converts to glucose and metabolizes that. And when we talked about the CP system, that's a 1-to-1 in terms of ATP generation. So for 1 molecule of creatine phosphate, you're going to get 1 molecule of ATP because you're taking that phosphate off of that CP molecule and you're putting it on ADP to make ATP. When you talk about glycolysis, you're going to send 1 molecule of glucose through glycolysis and you're going to get 2 molecules of ATP. So it's a quick system. It doesn't have to happen in the present. It does not happen in the presence of oxygen. You don't need oxygen to generate that ATP. And that's why it's a fast energy source. But you pay a price for that speed of generating the ATP. And what that price is ultimately is lactate with a hydrogen ion associated with it, which is what causes that muscle burn. Not the lactate molecule itself, but the excess hydrogen. And so, imagine you're in a scramble and you're generating all this lactate because you're just getting at it, trying to achieve that dominant position, for a minute and a half. You're generating all this lactate. And then either you get that dominant position or things didn't go quite as well as you hoped and you're in the inferior position. And now you're trying to recover. And that's where the aerobic system comes in.
Right.
So that's where having a highly trained aerobic system is going to help you clear those metabolites to go again. And how do you get that highly trained? In part, aerobic system is the zone 2 stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why having zone 2, it's good. Like if they don't have, if they're wondering, okay, what do I do today? I don't know. Yeah, do 45 minutes of zone 2 because you're putting another block in that foundation.
Okay.
So does that?
Yeah, that helps because I mean, I know we talked about there are people that say, we talked about this last time. I trained my zone 2 with my BJJ, and we said we kind of you said that doesn't happen, right? So we talked about
no, that's not the best way to go about.
That's not the best way to go about it.
No,
So, but
no.
they are more likely tapping into the glucose and the quick system. So then that means that I really need to just focus, not only, but I really just have to hammer it in that zone 2.
Yeah, it needs to be dedicated.
It needs to be dedicated.
You need to carve out however much time. And then if we look like on an individual sort of session, if we look at it from that perspective of an individual session, I would say bare minimum is 30 minutes. I mean, ideally it's going to be 45. I mean, really ideally it's an hour.
Okay.
Or for a BJJ.
Gotcha.
If you're doing an endurance sport, then you need more. But for BJJ, 45 minutes to an hour. But it needs to be carved out. That's what it needs to be. You don't need to start dipping into zone 3 or anything like that. So you ensure you get the most benefits from that session.
Okay.
Doing it, you just don't have any control when you're in a round and you say, okay, this 1 hour. Let's back up. So your average jiu-jitsu class is 1 hour.
Yeah.
That's stepping on the mats. That's, listening to the professor or whoever's running the class. That's bowing in. That's running around the mats to warm up. That's shrimping back and forth. That's doing the lesson or, learning the technique, which the technique, if we really look at it and we look at, if we're going to say it's a pie and we're, okay, how much activity is actually occurring in that technique portion of class, 80 to 85% is going to be just sitting on the side of the mat.
Yeah.
Watching a demonstration or asking a question. Then, 15 to 20%, maybe you're actually moving around, but you're probably not even getting high enough to hit your zone 2 because it's a technique, right? It's not like you're drilling it. You're just going through the motions. You're trying to learn it. So you're slowing things down. You're like, oh, I didn't do that right. Can we reset? Okay. So now we're 30 minutes into class, and maybe you do that until, I don't know, minute 40. And then they say, okay, now we're going to do rounds. Well, guess what?
Then we go.
Those rounds are going to go through the roof, right? Yeah. It's the finals of the world championships, right? Like rare is the person who can get on the mats, do a round and not go 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, people do it obviously. And especially as you get higher in rank, you're not trying to, murder the other person. But you get a white belt in there, or a blue belt who just got their blue belt, against a white belt. I mean, dude, you're going through the roof. And so, point being, that person can go back. Let's say they wore their wearable, and they go back and they look, and they're like, "Oh, my average heart rate was right at zone 2 for that hour." It's not the same.
It's not the same.
You're not getting those adaptations.
So what happens? Somebody asked me this. What happens? And if you're in zone 2 training, say we're doing the rucking, what happens when you stop and you go, like, you just fully recover because someone stopped to talk to you or whatever the case may be? What kind of, I know that it affects us when we come out of zone 2 into zone 3. What happens if we just completely stop?
There's not a penalty for going lower as there is for going higher. Okay. Because you're just kind of shutting down, but you're going to a lower intensity, right? You're going from a zone 2 to a rest. Okay. So it's not like you're generating these byproducts that are going to shut down the bioenergetics of it. Whereas when you go to zone 2, you go to zone 3 from zone 2, now you're generating that lactate. Okay. And that's what's going to start inhibiting your lipolysis, so the breakdown of your fat stores. And then it's going to inhibit these transporters that will transport those molecules, those individual free fatty acids, into the mitochondria. So it doesn't work in that direction.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah. So you can slow down, and if someone stops you and talks to you for 5 minutes, okay, that's 5 minutes. Okay. But it doesn't take you like another 15 minutes to ramp back up.
I always remember seeing those runners they're like running and then they're like at the stoplight and they just like,
And they keep jogging.
They keep jogging. Yeah. And I was like,
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you have to do that.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
I remember talking to someone, stopping them. Like I was on my bike. I'm like, hey, Deborah or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like, they're like running backwards as they're talking to me. I'm like, okay, you better go.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say they don't want to cool down.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that would be, that would be one potential price you pay, right? Like, let's say you stop them and you have this 20-minute conversation.
Yeah.
So they're going to cool down a little bit. Their muscles are going to feel a little bit tight or a little tight when they start up again. So, I mean, it's not totally useless, but
yeah. And their coach calls me like, dude, don't stop talking to my my athlete.
You're impairing their training.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned this, like, you know, we talked about zone 2 a lot, and then the quick system and all that. Is there something specific, like anything specific that I don't know to ask that I should really know about the energy systems and just training my athletes, or just like if we're training on our own, like what are we missing as far as?
I think really laying that base.
Okay.
So, and I think what most people miss is that they just tend to make their easy days aren't easy enough. And conversely, their easy days are too hard and their hard days aren't hard enough.
Gotcha.
I think if I had to sum it up, I would say that's sort of the pitfall that most people fall into.
Okay.
And so you end up in this just kind of intermediate area where you may not be, I mean, you're going to get something, right? It's better than just sitting on the sofa, but you're not going to get optimal results and you're going to kind of wear yourself down over time. Okay. So like that person we talked about grit the first time, right? And where does that come in? And, you know, there's this idea of, okay, I got to do this super hard workout where I'm just, you know, I want to quit. And I mean, there's a place for that, but that's really more mental training in terms of, you know, perseverance.
Yep.
But I mean, I think if you go out and you do, you know, 2 sets of VO2 intervals, I mean, you're going to get plenty enough grit training there because those suck. I mean, you're doing 4 minutes at maximal effort and repeating it 4 times, and then you're resting, and then you're doing another set of that. I mean, yeah, that's no small thing.
Yeah, this is helpful for me just as a coach, learning how to express this to my athletes. I once had a guy I was training, and you know, I think I told you that I got upset with him because he didn't rest. You know, but he actually sat me down, and what you're talking about, the mental component. He ran the dunes or whatever he did, sprint work, crazy workout that he wasn't supposed to do, and he sat me down. And he said, you know, I need to know that I can do this.
Yeah.
And so that was what he's talking about. He's like, I know what the science says. Like, we were using Omega Wave to check his heart rate variability in the morning. He's reading all that stuff. And I'm like, look, man, like you are on the edge. I was training him with a metronome. I had a metronome set up, and he's doing 135 pound. He's a 225 pound guy, strong, and he's lifting 135 pounds to like, dude. And he's eating like specific foods just to not fall over the edge.
Yeah.
You know? So we were keeping him from like not peaking basically this whole camp because he came in great shape.
Yeah.
So, but when he sat me down and talked to me about that, I'm like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. At the same time, I'm like, well, you're getting that in class. Like you're getting that in wrestling. You're getting that you're getting it just going through your normal training program of doing 4 sessions a day or whatever it is. Yeah. Don't use the strength training as that piece. Use your other training as that piece, and use this as like really the smart science-based stuff. So we can really help that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really helpful for me just to be able to express that to my athletes of like, this is why this is important. And then having like, you know, you now being able to be like, look, this is what it is. But like before, it's almost like they need that mental piece so bad, you know, from everywhere. They're trying to get it the whole time. There's the mental edge, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think you can do that. You know, let's say if you have whatever, a 1 week microcycle or even like a 2 week microcycle, then you know, you can program in one day where they just go and you kill them and they do like the 300 workout. I don't know if that was, man, that was back. I think I saw it. I don't know if it was when I was kind of doing CrossFit, or I had this other workout. God, what was it called? The Horseman workout. Horseman? Okay. Yeah. Have you ever heard of that? No, I heard the 300 workout. That was like what, 2006, 7-ish or something like around there. Yeah. It's, so the Horseman workout, it was kind of like this. I heard some dude tell me, he's like, hey man, I got this document. It's the Horseman workout. I'm like, all right, well send it to me. And it, you know, purportedly, it's, you know, some special ops group that put together all these workouts. One of them was a 300 workout.
I'd have to go back and look. I mean, I did it once and it took forever. It was some just ridiculous amount of, mix between barbell work, calisthenics. I mean, it probably took me like an hour and a half to finish in my garage. And, at no time was I probably, doing any sort of specific zone workout, right? Like I was certainly not in zone 2, but I wasn't quite at zone 5. It was just it was just a mental beatdown. So I think if you have like a microcycle or something, you can program in one of those just to say, hey, we're just going to test your your intestinal fortitude, right? We're going to get you through that. But every session can't be like that.
Right.
Every day certainly can't be like that, because you're going to eventually just dig yourself a hole that now you got to get out of, and you're again going to waste time.
Okay.
Because I imagine with a fight camp, you're working on a pretty strict timeline, right? Like it's going to start 6 weeks before whatever the match is.
8 weeks usually.
Oh, 8 weeks. And then you're going to want to have a week of recovery. You're going to want to have a taper. So you don't want to lose a week or two to injury or, overtraining or, whatever it may be. But if you have someone who feels like they need that mental challenge, you program that in.
Gotcha.
And you say, okay, here's your day to go and really test how much you can tolerate. But then you got to make sure you recover appropriately after that, right? You have whatever they may do. Maybe they do compression boosts. Maybe they do contrast therapy. They take in enough food, which again, in a fight camp can be sort of tricky because it's looking at weight loss. They're trying to cut. I mean, that's a whole other conversation to have. Like, how do you safely do that? And then it's really like you can't wait until the last 2 months to try and lose all that weight, right?
Right.
You have to go in so that you're, I don't know, maybe you got another 5, 10 at the most to take off in that camp. I mean, even 10 sounds like it's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of water cutting. I think at the higher levels, right? And that's like
that's the last
week, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and that can be problematic too, because you lose all this water. You're going to have electrolyte imbalances. That's going to manifest itself in how they feel, how their muscles act. Things are going to subjectively feel harder because when you dehydrate yourself, you drop your plasma volume. So your heart has to compensate by pumping faster to deliver an equivalent amount of oxygen to your muscles. So whereas one effort you may have been able to do it at 120 beats per minute, you're dehydrated. Now all of a sudden it's 130, 135. And then, subjectively you're like, oh man, I don't feel very good.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things about, doing that last fluid cut that need to be, pretty strictly managed.
Right. So I would say just at an amateur level, it's probably best. I mean, I did a tournament and I was trying to gain weight at the time. And so I was like, I'm going to do the 185 or whatever it was. And man, the guy that I went against grabbed me and I was like, oh shoot.
Because that dude walks around at 205.
I was like, and I'm more like 175. And I remember being like, what the?
Yeah, right away, man. When they put hands on you, you're like,
I'm in the wrong division. And then the next day, I gi the first day. And then the next day, it was no gi. And I lost like 5 pounds. So I went in I weighed in at 178. I was like, oh man.
Suck.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say like just trying to fight at your walking weight at like an amateur level. What would you say?
I mean, I think that's probably best because, you end up doing these kind of extreme, really, accelerated weight losses. And that just usually is going to have an impact on your performance, I think. Now, it's one thing if you, 6 months from now, you're doing this tournament and you really just dial it in. And you slowly drop. And then, so when it comes time, you only have 2 pounds to lose or something like that. I mean, here's what we know is that you lose more than 2% of your weight in fluid. That's going to have a 10% impact on your performance. At least
10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't take much to have a pretty significant impact on your performance. 2% of your body weight and fluid loss will impact your performance. Okay. So you want to ideally, whatever that last little bit you have to lose, you want to stay within that. You want it to be less than 2% of your body weight. Yeah, because in a tournament, you're going to get so many different variables anyways. I mean, I not only was it going through I was trying to gain weight just because I was
feeling good in the gym. I was like, man,
Yeah.
I'm like, I should be bigger when I'm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but then like I break my nose first match, right? And then it's like, and then I get the next, they're all a war every single, it was like I got in a fight, like a fist fight. I got went to like a MMA
Yeah, it was
fight.
a scrap.
Yeah, I was like, what in the world happened here? And then the next day I had nothing. Like I was just like nothing. So imagine if I was cutting weight as well on top of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I may not be, I would be 10%. I had nothing. I like everyone just beat me like the second day.
Yeah, you're empty.
Like, I was done.
You're empty.
Can imagine going on a weight cut
Right.
to try to make weight. I think you have to weigh in again. You have to weigh in again the next day.
Oh my gosh.
Before you go into the bullpen. Right? So they weigh you before you go in.
So it's not like you can cut that weight and then like a fight where they cut that weight and then they just go to town.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yep.
So you have to reweigh. Yeah. Now that would be rough. I mean, because, you know, when you have those quick weight losses, or when you lose weight that quickly, you know, you're losing fluid, right? Some of that fluid is also going to be attached to muscle glycogen. So you're going to lose some muscle glycogen too, which is your, you know, it's your high octane fuel.
Yeah.
So that could be why, you know, you would feel empty.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't replenish. But then how much will you do that when you know that you have to weigh in again the next day? So it's a pretty tricky thing, I think. I mean,
I like how they do that the day of because they're not this, people are, I think they're safer.
Yeah.
You know, not getting this crazy, but then there's some crazy guys out there. They're probably like, I could do it. And they're just, you know, dropping.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, how well do those guys perform? That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this kind of the last, like, you know, 10, 15 minutes here. And when you talked about when I came in talking about something else as far as like muscle endurance, muscle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other. So, you know, when you look at BJJ, there's the sort of cardiovascular side of it, like your engine. And then there's the technique side. And then there's sort of the muscular side.
Yeah.
But the muscular side, you know, just like there are multiple energy systems that you have to think about, the muscular side, I think there are, you know, several different things you have to look at. So there's strength, which is just, you know, how much force can you generate? Like, you know, how heavy a weight can you pick up? Then there's power, which now has a speed component. So it's how fast can you do it? And then there's muscular endurance. So how long can you do something? And that really applies to BJJ, right? Because I think we've all experienced, you know, trying to put on a collar choke. That's the one I always go to because I like collar chokes.
I know.
But you're trying to get it. Maybe the angle's not right. And you're just like, oh, for everything, all you got. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, my grip is getting weaker. I'm starting to burn out. And the next thing you know, the guy is out. Yeah. And he's reversed it, right? You know, now you're in an inferior position. So that's muscular endurance.
Okay.
Then there's flexibility. So obviously something you need for BJJ. And then, so we talked about strength, power. Oh, and then speed. Speed is the other one. So, and then you can look at strength and speed equal power, right? But those are what we got, 5 there. Strength, speed, power, muscular endurance, flexibility. So those are all things that I think some attention need to be given to when you're looking at trying to put together like your ideal BJJ self.
Yeah.
And they all have different sort of ways of training, right? You can't, you know, if you really want to maximize your strength, okay, you got to lift heavy, low reps. So, you know, 80% of your 1 rep max. If you want to work on power, you have to drop the weight. So now we're talking 20 to 40%, maybe for, you know, really strong guys, 50 of their 1 rep max, but it has to be as fast as possible while being safe.
Yeah.
Now that's using a barbell. You know, you can do other things like plyometrics. You know, that can help with power generation.
Band resistance stuff, like
if it's really quick.
It's real quick.
Yeah, there has to be a time component to it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Muscular endurance, I mean, that's, you know, in the context of BJJ, you know, one thing that's good for that is if you take a gi, you put it, you know, you set up let's say you put a barbell in a power cage and then you throw the gi over it and you start doing inverted rows. So you grab the collars.
Right.
But the trick is, you know, you do like, let's say you do 5 or 10 and then you hang for 10 seconds and then you do another 5 or 10. I mean, I think most people are going to maybe make it a minute, minute and a half, but that's a really good way to train that muscular endurance.
That's a long time.
That is a long time.
Trust
me. It was a long time. I used to try to do it.
I gotta go home. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
I have an old gi that someone gave me a long time ago. I'm gonna take it to my office. I'm gonna try that because I don't know if I can hang that long.
Yeah, 30 seconds in, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, cause and every, every 15, I'll go back and look at what I used to do. But I think, I want to say it was like every 20 seconds, maybe I would do like 10 rows and then I would hold it and just hang. And then beep, then I do another 10 and hold it. I don't know that I ever made it past a minute and a half.
Okay.
I have to go back and look, but anyway, that's a good way to train muscular endurance. But you can do push-ups. You can do, whatever sort of exercise that is just high repetition. So you start feeling that, the burn, quote unquote. And then speed, kind of self-explanatory. And then flexibility, also kind of self-explanatory. But I think those are the components from the muscular perspective that you got to work on to really, be prepared for BJJ, because you're going to need every one of them.
Right.
You're going to need strength. You're going to need power. You're going to certainly need muscular endurance, speed, and flexibility.
Yep.
So
can I add on to flexibility and see what you think about this? So when I talk about flexibility, I talk about mobility. I talk about flexibility, and it's just the way the words we're using, but flexibility is like the ability to get into a position, and then mobility is the ability to get yourself out of it. So
I like that. Yeah.
So, and it's not me. It's, I believe that's Dr. Spina. It's the FRC guys. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those guys. Anyways, what they were and I do this a lot with my athletes. So when we're in a position of like in range of motion, right? So we're doing flexibility. Then we'll hold for 2 minutes, and then we start to actually add some light strength isometrics.
Okay.
So the idea is that I'm going to get injured, or I can have an injury, or whatever the case may be, or I may not be able to get out of a position because I have the flexibility to get there, but I have no strength to get out.
No strength in that position. Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's something we add. So we'll say like we're doing internal rotation, hip stretch. And it's a 2 minute hold, and then now I'm going to give them a resistance, and now they're adding maybe like 20 to not even that much, like maybe 20% of their effort, and I'm holding for about 3 seconds, 2 seconds, and then release. And then we just keep them doing that. Now they're training the nervous system in a different way. Okay. So that's something that I've added, for years now, that I've added to all my athletes. Like, all right, let's not just stretch. Now we're going to stretch with adding that strength component into it as well. So like that strength and flexibility are going to go hand in hand. We're just thinking of strength in a different way, other than like lifting heavy. We're thinking like, let's load it in range of motion. Yeah. Right. So I think of like an arm lock, right? It's like, okay, like if I have the flexibility, like I'm good, but there's no strength.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get out.
I can't. I'm going to have a hard time even turning. So that's something that I really, with those guys, I really just like. And the guy. So Dewey Nielsen or Nielsen? He's an Impact Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Oh, really? From Portland. Okay. And so this is kind of a funny story. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but
no. Go ahead.
So it's an interesting story. I took a class. This was like where I learned this stuff from him. He's not the one that created it, but he taught a class. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And he was a jiu-jitsu guy or whatever. And then when I went to Ben's first class, I was like, man, this guy reminds me of somebody. Oh, and they coach the same.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I asked him, do you know this guy's like, yeah, he's a black belt with Impact or whatever. And I was like, what? Oh, so
it's a small world.
It is a small world. So anyways, but he was demonstrating. He was rolling with a guy on a break at one of these seminars. He's rolling with a guy. And I remember it was 2 black belts. And the guy goes, I can't do anything to him. And he was he's so bendy. And he's like, no, like I'm strong. Yeah. Like, right. Like, it's like, so that was
in those positions where you don't expect to have some strength. He has it from that dedicated training, which, I like that. Okay, cool. I need to figure out a way to incorporate that in what I do.
What I say is like anytime you're stretching, at the end of your stretch, add strength. Like just add say you're doing like a split stance hamstring stretch. Okay. At the end of it, I'm going to pull my legs together. Okay. Squeeze. I'm going to relax and squeeze. And then build it. That's just very subtle, but like, there's other ways to do it with there's sequences you can do. But okay. Yeah. So that's one thing that I add to the flexibility piece.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I think that's really cool.
Cool. Yeah. I'll take you through it sometime and see just to show you some of the movements and things. It's a whole thing. They have a whole, it's like its whole world.
Like a whole protocol.
It's a whole world, man. They do FRC. I got certified in FRC. They have FRR, which is that thing, but for manual therapists.
Okay.
So working with the body more passively, and then walking your clients through those.
So like PT or OT type.
PT, OT, massage. Like, so,
Okay.
One of the reasons I became a massage therapist, the reason I became a massage therapist, because I went to the course and they had an hour break, and they said, if you're a, manual therapist, you can stay. And I'm sitting there saying, well, I paid for this thing. I'm going to stay here. So I sat there and they gave this talk about how to do this manually. So I went up to Dr. Spina and I said, hey, how do I do this? He's like, well, are you a manual therapist, massage therapist, anything? I'm like, no. And he goes, well, that's how you do it. And I'm like, okay. And that was Sunday. On Tuesday, I was enrolled in massage school. That's how much it was like, what?
Yeah.
It blew my mind. So they do assessment stuff. So like people can go get certified to assess people. Okay. And it's like they have this whole, tree of, okay, you come in to see me, I assess your tissue, you're good across the board. Cool. You can go take the group classes. Okay. You come and see me, you're a mess. Cool. You go see the manual therapist, and then they get you to see, you know what I mean? So yeah. Anyways.
No, that's super cool, man. I mean, and that's something I probably really had never thought about. I was just like, okay, I just need to be more flexible. Yeah. And I didn't really think about, what requirements I'm putting on my muscles, and it's specifically in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. In that activity, because, like we both know, you can end up pretzeled. Yeah. And you're trying to get out of it, and you're in the less than optimal position to generate force with those muscles. So if you can train that, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And even if you're like, okay, I'm not blowing myself out of this arm lock. Well, I'm going to decrease the risk of injury. Yeah. I mean, eventually there's a point, right? The tissue load has a point.
Yes. No, it is finite, right?
There's like
how much you can load the ligaments of the rotator cuff.
Right. And I guess that's the idea.
Or the tendons.
I think, the big thing they talk about is, the injury happens when the load is greater than the tissue can handle, basically. So that's, we know that. So it's like, I see some really flexible guys, and they're like, they're back here like this, but they're not at risk. They feel like they're not at risk, but I'm like, this is very slack. There's some what's the word I'm looking for? Like immobility here. There's some weakness here. You can feel it.
There's some kind of underlying pathology.
There's something going on, and you're like, and like, as a partner, you're like, okay.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I'm not going to maim you just to, win this round.
Right. But then you can do it where you feel like, man, that's then they can kind of like straighten their arm out and do whatever they need to do. There's a difference, I think, between like, okay, I'm flexible. And I got people that brag about that. Oh, I'm flexible, but they're constantly walking around with shoulder injuries. Like, I just talked to someone last night that's like,
yeah, my rotator cuff's torn. I'm flexible.
But I can touch my hands and my butt this way. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, there are limits on, flexibility, the benefits of flexibility, I think.
So like kind of bring it back around to what you're saying with the strength and all of it. And then we all have limited amount of time. Oh, yeah. A lot of us do. So I know a lot of people, they do HIIT training. They're like, I'm just going to do HIIT training. That's all I'm going to do. And then, so like for me, I'm always telling people 2 days designated, you should be doing 2 days of strength at least, no matter what.
Yeah, I agree.
No matter what.
I think 2 days.
Okay.
Minimum. From, performance perspective or, wellness/longevity perspective, you need 2 days.
Yeah. And they can add, like if we're doing like undulating training, can they add their power within those same days if they're doing it first? Or does that have to be a separate day completely?
I mean, I think it depends on what they're doing. I mean, I think you can add it, but if you're looking at it in the context of an individual day of working out, should you do power first? I would say yes. Yeah. Just because there's that speed component, so technique is going to be super important. Yeah. Now I wouldn't try and double up power and like absolute strength on the same day, because for the absolute strength, you have to move pretty heavy weights, and technique is important as well. But you can even look at staggering, I think, like, 1 week you do this, and then the next week you add in another, you add in that power workout, you take out one of the other exercises and then you kind of go back. So the key really is consistency, right? Because it's not like one individual week that's going to yield the benefit, right? It's multiple weeks stacked together of consistent effort. So it's kind of like my strategy to be able to fit everything in, because it is hard. Like you said, when you sit down and you say, okay, well, I need 4 days, 3 minimum zone 2. I need a day of high intensity stuff. Okay, now I got to do I need a day of strength. I need to do a day of power. I mean, the way I personally break it up is, I'll do Monday, Wednesday, I'll do like strength. And then Friday, I'll have like a power exercise or a couple, like that might be plyometrics and then cleans, power cleans.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, Thursday, zone 2. Sunday or Saturday, zone 2. One of those days can be a day off, or depending on how I feel, maybe I'll do like just a long bike ride or something like that. But that's how it looks right now with jiu-jitsu not in the mix.
Yeah.
But now when I throw jiu-jitsu back in the mix, not all bets are off, but I'm going to have to tweak it.
Yeah.
And then, like kind of moving forward, these are other things we can talk about is like how can we get the most out of our limited training time? So, in the past I've used blood flow restriction because there's a lot of data, at least from the perspective of the strength gains, that using those protocols with blood flow restriction, you have these very short sessions that will yield significant gain. And even now there's data now looking at the benefits of blood flow restriction with cardiovascular training. So those are, I hate to use the word hacks, but those are some ways you can try to be a little more efficient, doing stuff like that, doing your zone 2. And one thing that's nice about the zone 2 is you can, that's really, those workouts are amenable to 2-a-days because the cost isn't super high.
Yeah.
So you could do your hard session in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you could do your 30, 45 minutes of zone 2.
Okay.
Which is probably going to help set you up for the next day because it's kind of active recovery in some ways.
Yeah. If they're not getting anything else, that'd be the way to do it. I know a lot of my, not the BJJ guys. Well, some of them do, but the guys that can really get after, they're doing 2 or 3 massages a week, and they're doing all that.
God, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, from a recovery perspective, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it can be challenging, but there can be a way. And then you have to think, okay, here's one last thing I'll say. Mm-hmm. We all tend to have areas that we're better at than others, right? So you always want to train your weaknesses and not your strengths. But it's nice to train we tend to train our strengths because it feels good. It's what we're good at. Mm-hmm. So if you are just kind of this naturally strong person, maybe you don't have to put, and I don't know if this person exists, they probably do. If you can just walk off the street and pull 400 on the deadlift, mm-hmm. you probably don't need to use a ton of time to get to 450, unless that's what your goal is, or 500.
Makes sense.
If you're looking at it from the perspective of being good at jiu-jitsu, you can walk in off the street and pull 400 on the deadlift. You're good to go for sure. I mean, you need to do a little something to keep it in, but you don't need to have it take up this inordinate amount of your training time. But if you can walk in and pull 400, but you can't do 10 push-ups, mm-hmm. then okay, well, I need to work on my muscular endurance. So that's where I'm going to spend. So maybe I do like that absolute strength workout every other week or something, but I really focus on the muscular endurance. And however that applies to the individual, I think taking a look at it and then using that to guide how you set up your training can also help you be a little more efficient.
Man, I'm glad you said that. And I'll end it here, but I think as a trainer, I tell people that all the time. I said my job is to get you to do things you wouldn't do on your own. Right.
And no one's going to do their weakness on their own.
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah.
But if I look at it from a BJJ standpoint, I've talked to upper belts where they're like, there'll be times where you're going to try to go to play a different game, mm-hmm. and you'll be like, I suck at this, right? And you're just like, because you're training something or do you hammer that and say, okay, we're just going to be bad at jiu-jitsu for a while, or do you say, no, I don't want to lose, so I just keep doing my thing, right? Right. And you want to go do that thing. You want to go just challenge yourself to learn triangle, whatever you like,
whatever your weak point is, because ultimately you're going to be a more rounded fighter. Yep. And that's what you have to do. But man, it's mentally, it's tough. It's so easy to fall back into that. Yeah. I'm gonna just look for kimuras on people
all day. I chase arms all day, man. Yeah. Like ask me to do a triangle, and I'm like, which way would I turn?
Which leg do I use? Yeah.
Which leg goes behind which?
I know. But it's funny. It's funny you mentioned the triangle in particular because I'm not like a tall guy, and so I was never trying to do triangles. But right before I got injured, I'm like, I should try and work on this, and it was really satisfying. The limited success I had with it. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for trying to, focusing on your weaknesses. I think the sense of satisfaction when you do see that progress is, I think for me personally, it's greater than knowing that like I added 5 pounds to my deadlift pull or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And I know I said last thing a couple times, but I had a guy tell me last week, he said, I can't squat.
and did you help me squat? And I said, why can't you squat? He's like, I don't know, I just can't get there. I'm like, you know why you can't squat? It's because you don't squat.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Go figure.
Go figure. Yeah, you don't squat. So cool. We'll end it there.
All right. And, sounds good.
Definitely want to have you back on again.
Oh yeah, man. I love it. I'm learning. It's super fun.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, we can talk. I mean, you name it, we can talk about it. Okay. One area I think that's, people always wonder about supplements and what should I take and what should I take to like help myself improve or, so that's something we can talk about because that's another area that I like. Because there are a handful, but there are a handful that we know work well. So
I mean, I have cupboards full and I'm like, I have no idea if they worked or not. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, they told me to take this.
Yeah, right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's just an idea of some other things we can get into. But no, I'm definitely game to, do it again.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would love to actually talk about, not today, but I would love to talk about like recovering from injuries. Like specifically, I told you I have a kid recovering from a wrist fracture. Oh, yeah. Those just types of things and just the mindset behind that. And just like also like I sent him a list of like, hey, they say these supplements will help you. He's like, I'll take whatever I can. I'll drink your milk. And I was like, dude, sleep as much as you can.
Right.
Like, we're trying to throw everything at it. So that'd be another cool conversation to have. So,
yeah. Cool, man.
Cool. Right on.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
All right.
It was fun.
Awesome. See you guys next time.